I'm begging you, stop using 3200 degrees or 5600 degrees Kelvin for your white balance. If you're someone who uses auto white balance, you can just skip this video. It's not for you. This is one of the quickest ways to make your footage feel off without you even realizing it. Here, let's get into it. White balance isn't technical, it's creative. It's not about making things feel correct, it's about deciding how you want people to feel. And if you're letting the camera decide that, you're missing out. First, some coffee. Hit the Sump Coffee, Las Palmas, Colombia. Sump Coffee from St. Louis, the best. I know we were at least told in film school, or if you've come across this online, or if you just open up your camera, look at the back and saw the white balance options. You've got daylight at 5600, you got your tungsten at 3200, you got your Kelvin where you can choose in between. You also got that evil auto white balance button. No, those are all garbage. Choosing your white balance is more important than you think. It's something that I do for every one of my shoots, and it's based on a whole variety of reasons. Not just, oh, I have this aperture 1200D for daylight for 5600 degrees Kelvin. That's what my white balance should be. Or like, oh, I stepped outside and it's full daylight, so that I remember I was told or saw a video online that it should be 5600 degrees Kelvin. Oh, let's balance that. Okay, wow, this looks really basic and good and normal. Okay, that's not bad, but that's not shaping. That's not creating. And you're really just not understanding what and why the light looks like that. Just because your camera is set to white balance at 5600 degrees Kelvin and your key light is at 5600 degrees Kelvin doesn't mean that's going to feel natural when you take that and you put it inside, let's say, an office building where the windows are tinted a certain color, and that's coming in totally different than what your light source is. Or you're in a windowless room and you turn on the fluorescence and that's totally different color than your key source. Let's say you're in a house and they should have tungsten bulbs in their, their practical fixtures all around. And you're like, well, let's just use this. Well, that is a look, but is it the right look? Are you trying to make people feel that you're lighting something? Or are you trying to make them feel like you're in a space and they're just performing or doing something in that space? These are decisions you have to make as a cinematographer. Big fan of all the bicolor lights out there. Super easy to dial in what you're looking for. But don't sleep on gels. I use gels all the time, especially when using bigger instruments like the 1200D, which is not quite a bigger instrument. I love putting CTS, which is color temperature straw, in front of there, whether that's a quarter, half, or full strength, to emulate what the sun would be like and correcting that light, pushing that warmth through whatever I'm trying to do. Or sometimes it's even blowing up already a daylight balance source, for whatever I'm trying to go for. Typically that's trying to make a nighttime vibe or just a cooler feeling effect. So good, so bright. Early on, I treated white balance like a checkbox. Gotta keep it neutral, hit that 5600 degrees, Kelvin when I'm outside, or 3200 degrees Kelvin when I'm inside. And everything just kind of feels flat, or just not to my liking. This is about making things look better. Let's get into it. So here's the deal. Every space already has a tone, from overhead lighting to window lighting to practical lamps or to LED lighting, and who knows what level of calibration any household LED has. And if you just set your camera to like 3200 degrees Kelvin or 5600 degrees Kelvin, you're not matching the scene, you're fighting it. And I get it, I understand. This is what we've been taught. Match your key source to your camera and everything will look clean and as it should be. Well, this is a true statement. This is facts. This is what you kind of sometimes want to have depending on what you're shooting, but you also got to think about your environment. For me, on this setup, for my YouTube setup, I've got just this little 1x1 with some muslin on it, and I don't think I know exactly what I set it to temperature-wise on the back, but it's probably like 3800 degrees Kelvin, but I do know what comes off the muslin is going to be warmer. Got my color meter right here. And I do know that the space in this room overall is about 2700 degrees Kelvin. And this key light is about 31. That's because of whatever this muslin is. So if I need to get this temperature up, I could just keep cranking that Kelvin up to like 4500 degrees Kelvin. Maybe that'll balance it out. But what I have the camera at right now is at 3800 degrees Kelvin, somewhere even between, because I don't want this awesome warm, like practical lights that are all over my event barn to feel cleaner and whiter. I want them to feel warm. We're in an event barn. It's a vibe. So just sticking to your gut of 5600 degrees or daylight or tungsten or 3200 degrees Kelvin and calling it good, you're not matching the vibe, you're not shaping the vibe, you're skipping a step, honestly. For some of these examples, I did this project for a doorknob company, and we had 3 different homes and we created different looks all around. You know, not one white balance was the same. And it wasn't just because, oh, these are the lights we have on the truck. We have all daylight balanced lights, which is not the case, but I'm just saying this is a scenario. Okay, well then we'll just use my camera set to the same thing, and then white will look like white and everything. No, we're not doing that. We're trying to create mood. I wanted some sunset vibes in the kitchen, so we gelled up our HMIs, honestly, is probably what we were using. And there was some half CTS or full CTS. It all depends on how much warmth you want coming through. And that's skipping it. And then whatever our ambient light inside was, you know, it's a kitchen, so it should have some warmth to it. So we probably had an LED in there doing its thing. And camera, that's where I'm like, oh yeah, I want the kitchen to feel, now that we watered these lights, let's balance it so it all feels clean and white. No, you gotta push it. So if you got a tungsten lamp and you want that tungsten lamp to feel clean and white, you balance the tungsten. If you want that lamp to feel warmer, go cooler on your Kelvin. Go to the 4000 degrees Kelvin. Go to 4500 degrees Kelvin. You want it to feel crazy warm? Balance it to daylight and make that warm feel totally crazy warm. This is a tool. This is not checkbox. You don't just sit down and say, cool, ISO is this, shutter speed is this, white balance is this. Shoot, why does my footage look different? Why doesn't it look cool? Or why does it dare say boring or something? This is one of those things that so many people are sleeping on. You've got to use your white balance as a tool to shape the mood. And for all you raw users, whether you're shooting Red, Canon, Arri, I know you can change your white balance in post, but on the day through that monitor, you're still needing to choose your white balance and what you're wanting to go for and dial in all your fixtures to that. If you're like, hey, that's cool, but you know, we're just gonna change the white balance in post later. Well, none of your lamps are gonna match. You've gotta do it on the day. Now, if you want to, let's say, make something cooler or warmer or cleaner or flatter or whatever, yeah, you can shift that raw white balance in post and you'll get closer to whatever your key source was or further away to make it feel more dramatic. Take the show Ozark on Netflix, for example. They set their white balance to like 4400 degrees Kelvin or 4500 degrees Kelvin for the whole show. At least I heard that on one of the podcasts, that it was that, and we left it there, not as because I don't want to think about more things and do less steps. It was a creative choice to make daytime feel really eerie and inside, you know, not quite feel right either. It was an attempt to make things feel off, and the show is all about making people feel off. So this is a creative decision you have to make on set. You know, on the shoot, we had lamp fixtures that I really wanted to pop. I want them to feel tungsten and warm. If I balance the tungsten, then it'll just feel like a white lamp. Now, granted, that's typically why I'm always asking art department or lighting department to bring amber colored lights so we can get, you know, ambers around that like 2000, maybe 22, anywhere between 2 and 2800 degrees Kelvin is a nice color temperature for a practical lamp, especially if you're just using it as a background thing, or you're just wanting to feel warm. Here's a bonus pro tip for you. Anytime you have art department or whether it's lighting department or whoever's handling the practical lamps on set, and you're going for that amber look, make sure they get the lowest wattage possible. We're not using these lights as key lights. Sure, they could add a little bit of ambient fill, that's great and all, but I'm not trying to fight holding those exposures while I'm also trying to hold a window or hold my key or whatever. The other day I had a producer who was doing a Home Depot run to get some bulbs for our commercial set, and he sent me back 300 watt, those tiny little like chandelier lights. I was like, how did they get 300 watts in there? It was LED, of course, and I'm like, dude, no, especially not daylight. Amber, it's crazy. Give me the warmest one and the lowest wattage. I'll save you a little bit of money too, but anyway, it's more for the fact that I want to see those lights in the wide to help make the viewer feel like, oh, all this key light is happening from that. That's one of the important reasons why you should try to always show some sort of key source, or some sort of practical lamps, because you can help motivate your light, whether that's a window or practical light. Like, hey, this whole room's ambient was brought to you by this chandelier. That's not the case, but I think the viewers, it helps them feel more grounded in whatever you're trying to capture. So bonus pro tip, get amber color lights or anything down towards that 2000 to 2800 degrees Kelvin and use the lowest wattage. One of the times when I do use, straight up 5600 degrees Kelvin, let's just say we're outside, it's daytime, you got an ultra bounce without any other fabric in between, and you're just trying to do a return bounce, that feels about right. I mean, you can go warmer with it with whatever the ambient might be, and you also could go cooler with it to make the sun outside feel even warmer. This is a tool, this is not a checkbox. But here's a pro tip on how and when to choose the right white balance. Wow, that's a tongue twister. Here, let's check it out. When you're trying to choose the right white balance, get yourself a Sekonic color meter. This one's a little bit older, but it still does the job. Let's say you just walked into an office space or you're on your location scout and you're trying to figure out, there's a lot of lights in here. We're gonna swap all those to Titan tubes, or should we just match them or overpower them, or what we're gonna do? Well, what color temperature is it? Grab this, ping it. This is at 3000 degrees Kelvin, this light, to the muslin, whatever. Okay, we can do that. Let's gaffer, jot that down. We got 3000 degrees Kelvin in here, and we're going to make sure we have plenty of tungsten units. This is gonna make it cheaper. The gaffer jots that down, and now you're realizing, okay, we can maybe use tungsten units for this. Are we gonna be competing with the windows? Oh, the windows have a blue gel on it. Let's go over there. Boom, 7,000 degrees Kelvin. Well, what the heck? What are we gonna do now? Using a color meter is super helpful. They do have a updated version, and some other, Sekonic has been the go-to brand for as long as I can remember. And there are some new players in the market creating like a Kickstarter version, which is great. And I was trying to pull up cinetemp on my phone. It's that black one right there. It didn't work. This is what I've been seeing on cinetemp. Just nothing. When this would work, you could point your camera around and it somehow figured out your white balances. Another way to figure out your white balance is look at the back of the box of the light bulbs, understand what light you're using, or just Google it. This isn't that hard, but what I'm trying to get people to understand more is that yes, you gotta stop just trusting 3200 degrees Kelvin or 5600 degrees Kelvin for your white balance on your camera. We're not just trying to check a box here. We're trying to create a mood and an image. We're trying to make the viewers feel immersed into a space, or we're trying to make them feel uncomfortable or drawn out from this space, whether that be in the likings of Ozark, the show, from their 4500 degrees Kelvin, white balance set throughout the entire show, no matter what building they're in. And it wasn't like, all right, cool, we're gonna go 4500 degrees Kelvin, so let's match all of our lights to that. No, it was trying to push the daylight more eerie and cool and not quite get down to a clean and safe warmth of tungsten or inside buildings. It was that balance that they were trying to strike, and it was definitely a look. And one more note for all the auto white balance people, one of the main reasons why you shouldn't be using it is because it's constantly changing. Whether you're panning the camera around a room and then it just changed white balance like 4 different times, and you give your colorists this footage and they're like, what am I supposed to do with this? They just changed like 6 times. Do your best, maybe? Yeah, we don't use auto white balance. And for the old school, let's use a white piece of paper and color check that. Sure, that can still do its thing, and you've got yourself what is white, but this is not a checkbox. We're trying to create mood. We're trying to feel something here. That's also why it's important to make sure your monitors are calibrated so that when you get back to your editing bay, the image doesn't look too far off. All in all, pro tip, definitely don't use auto white balance, and stop just setting your camera to 32 or 5600 degrees Kelvin. Choose your white balance. All right, back to it. Good cinematography isn't about perfect color, it's about believable color. It's about making your viewer believe that the environment that they're seeing is real. Or if you're trying to just manipulate them to feel off or uneasy. Using your white balance as a tool to manipulate the image is part of the job. This is not just checking off a box of saying, hey, we're at 3200 degrees Kelvin because my tungsten units are at 3200 degrees Kelvin. It's a choice. Sure, if you're in a white sag studio and trying to make everything feel white, this is when your white balance needs to match a little bit better. Still, lights can be off, especially your LED ones. So having something like a color meter is super helpful to make sure that your LED lights are all matching. If they're not, break out some gels and get them color corrected, or get in the back, and if they're bicolor or whatever, tune them in. Also, another bonus pro tip, just because the bicolor lights say, hey, this is, I dialed this to 3,800 degrees Kelvin, and this other lamp from another brand says 3,800 degrees Kelvin, doesn't actually always mean that they're that accurate. They should be pretty close, but they're not always that accurate. So having a color meter to make sure all your lights match is helpful. Let's not forget, don't sleep on gels. I'm a big fan of CTS, color temperature straw, or CTB, color temperature blue, and all the different strengths, whether it's quarter, half, full. Finding that balance or pushing your lamps towards a direction that you want to go is what separates an image. It's what brings depth and balance to an image. We're trying to lighten these layers. I just got done doing a shoot where we were using aperture 1200Ds. And sure, we were putting them outside of a window and we could just push them in, that's daylight coming in. But that's cleaner, white-ish daylight coming in, if my camera was balanced at 5600. I wanted it to feel warm sun rays. So not just switching the white balance would have done the trick. I added CTS. I added full color temperature straw to each one of the 3 lamps that were outside this bank of windows, going through some kind of a warmish sheer on the window that warmed up even more, slightly open in spots so that the rays could come through. And that gave an image that I was quite pleased with. This is just lighting in layers, creating depth, and I'm begging you, just stop using auto white balance if you're anyone out there who does that, and just stop setting your camera to 3200 or 5600. Just for me, go 5500, go 3400. Just do anything different. We've got to start creating. I'm out here trying to share some of my experiences and encourage people to create, not just check the boxes. If you want to see how I apply this in my work, you can check out StevensCGreathouse.com. Thanks for watching. Peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Peace.